fixed gear bike is a very rudimentary machine that moves with the person as you're riding it.
You're connected to the rear wheel, essentially. You haven't got the, you could say, luxury of a free wheel. So
initially seeming counterintuitive, it makes a lot of sense on the road just because you've got very little to worry about in terms of maintenance and looking after it. Not worrying as much about gear and everything like that, just riding.
They couldn't be more mechanically simple as terms of a piece of transport, but yes, it's wheel, pedals, person, and that gives you kind of your go, and that's what I like.
What is it? What is it?
It's a bike which you control, and the bike doesn't control you.
The bike with no gears and no brakes. It's a bloody unicycle with a front wheel, I don't know.
It's just a bike with a lot of mythology attached to it. Classic being that everyone thinks, how can you ride it? It's going to tear you apart, you're going to be thrown off and you can't stop, you're going to never stop, you'll be, you're going to face plant a bus and your teeth are going to end up in your eye socket, and it just doesn't happen. You're not riding an alligator with wheels.
At the end of the day, it really comes down to how good a rider that you are, because the machines, there's not much that separates all of them.
Stops it being about the machine and makes it all about you. If you can't do it, it's not going to happen. You can't wimp out, you do it or you don't.
You grow up, you can't ride a BMX, you can't ride a skateboard, so you just find the next stupid thing that your mother doesn't approve of. Done.
When I came down here, and it was very spur of the moment, my friend had worked in Bristol, and I asked him, are there any hills, because I have a fixed bike? And he said, no, it's very flat.
Riding a fixed gear bike in Bristol is quite fun. Why fixed gear? Why not?
Hills are a challenge, they make you step up every day, they make you push yourself. It makes it not so easy. You can't just be a passive rider,
I think if there weren't any hills in Bristol, it wouldn't be nearly as fun to ride. Do you know what I mean? You need hills.
Yeah.
Up and down. I love going uphill. I love bombing up hills, and I love coming down them.
The only way you'd want to see Bristol is ride your bike.
Yeah,
I think.
You don't rely on mechanics. Other than these bits of mechanics here, your legs and your will to get up there.
There are a lot of hills in Bristol, which makes riding a fixed gear bike possibly a bit of a dumb idea, but actually it makes getting around the city really quite a dynamic affair. But just to see the city laid out in front of you, almost like a carpet just thrown out over the hills in front of you, all these kind of tiny houses, that's amazing.
I love riding through the centre, busy traffic, just kind of like jamming through the cars and just kind of knowing that you're going to get from one place to the other much faster than anyone else sat inside one of those big metal tins. So that's a great thing about Bristol is depending on what type of mood you're in, I think you can ride anywhere and you kind of get a different response.
It's essentially a staging post between the wilds of Devon, where bad shit happens and they eat their young, and the sprawling metropolis, where it's really, really exciting, but it's just too much. So what you get here is some of the excitement without the eating of the young.
No idea what to expect, but needed a job and no ties in Glasgow, and thought, well, why not? Now's the time to do it. You don't regret the things you do, only the things you don't do.
the fixed gear scene is very open and approachable, and you've only got to look at the types of bikes that people are riding. They're all very different, and age groups as well, ranging from late teens up to mid-40s. You'll get a load of guys just talking about bikes and just riding.
Great meeting new people, and definitely fantastic when there's community feel, people getting together and just having fun.
It's just become part of my everyday life, I think, and that's the beauty of riding fixed gear. I've made so many friends that I maybe wouldn't have met otherwise. If someone's got a new bike, you want to see the new bike, you want to see the new bits, you stand by the bikes. Come on.
Let me have a look at your bits. Oh, Dave Clark's got a new bits. Let's have a look.
Certified.
Riding with your mates and having fun, just going for a ride in as the sun's going down, like along the river or along the roads and bombing hills. Like, to me, that's the most memorable things I can think of when I think of it. You know, I mean, like, I miss those nights. You know, I miss them. You know, for sure.
It's nice taking up the road sometimes. It's just nice having, you know, more bikes than cars in a road. I like it. You know, you're all together. You're having a little ride. You have a little chat as well as you're riding. Direction can just take, you know, different turn. You know, it's just nice. Like, the world's your oyster kind of thing. Basically, you just go wherever you want to go.
It's a bike. It's also beautiful.
But it's got so much attached to it. You know, it's got friendships attached to it, which, you know, cliche
That's
as hell.
deep.
It is though.
That's
Yeah, but it is.
Yeah.
I'm not, and everyone who rides can agree with that.
It makes you a part of a community. Rolling somewhere, rolling back, you know, just checking stuff out, a bit of fresh air. If I can, you know, incorporate that with doing it with some mates as well, all the better for it.
It's not like a competition, but it's just like, I'm also riding with other people, it's good. Like riding on your own, if I'm going out for a ride on my own, it always feels a bit horrible. I don't know, but like riding in a group, or even if it's just two people, it's just so much better.
I think it pushes you. You know, well, it does push you. I don't think it pushes you. It does. If somebody's slightly better than you at hills, for instance, and you're not that great, and I put myself into that last category, it really does push you on. It spurs you on.
I think with cycling, it kind of, you get so many different kind of facets to it. You know, there's just that, although everyone's into that one thing, there are so many different kind of personalities and individuals in cycling, and it's that one thing that kind of bonds everyone and brings everyone together.
That's the time when you swap ideas, learn a bit about other people's bikes and experiences, get leads on other events that might be coming up, or the next big event might be plotted that evening.
Everyone's always friendly and up for a cider and getting together, so I think as soon as you put on an event to do with bikes, everyone's going to turn up. If I get into something, I want to make a book on it and a poster and a photography show and put on a night, and I can't not get obsessed with it and really into it. Started watching films, we just thought, you know, it was like, instead of watching a film, why don't you come to my house and watch it? And as soon as you do that, you're like, hey, let's invite a few people over. And so it's just constantly taking it to another level. So then it became, why don't we set up a night at the Cube? So we did that, bankrupt ourselves, and then we thought, oh no, let's be idiots and do it on a bigger scale. Let's do it at the Arnolfini. So yeah, the idea is just get in contact with people when they've got films and then put them on, and then everyone comes, watches a film, and rides somewhere afterwards.
All the events that we've done, like, are brilliant. I really like the ones that I've won. Because the prizes are so good, and you know, it's just like free swag. You know, and when you do time trials, you might get like £4 for coming 10th. If you win, I think you get like £12 in a 10-mile time trial. You have to go totally deep and vomit and, you know, hurt yourself and sort of violate yourself on a bike that looks like an alien. Whereas, you know, with the things we do, you just turn up and, you know, you end up with like cranksets and wheels and t-shirts and all kinds of stuff. It's brilliant.
Roller is weird because it's horrible. It feels horrible. Like, you feel horrible after you've done it, but you kind of still do it and you still pedal as hard as you can because you just want to beat the other guy.
prefer grassroots events, really, over those organised by big corporate sponsors. I'd rather bikes was something that was done by the people.
I think it's great to see those sort of grassroots events, just people just thinking, okay, what if we get 20, 30 people together and just go out for a bit of a race, then you don't have to mess around with all the registration and all the palaver, and it's not got that whole stigma or ethos attached to a lot of the actual proper racing. It's just a bunch of people going out seeing who's fastest on the day.
I really like the kind of cycling events or the alley cats and stuff that we put on, and again it's taking that competitive realm, but it's kind of opening up for everyone again. So going back to that point where, you know, some people just want to ride their bike from A to B, but they feel like they can come along to an alley cat and take part, and you don't really kind of feel that competitive side of it. It's, you know, you're still riding with your friends, you want to kind of do well, but at the end of the day it's just you've had a chance to hang out for an afternoon on your bike.
I think it's something like a quarter of a mile in the tunnel between Bristol and Bath on the cycle path in the middle of summer. Doesn't matter if it's raining because it's indoors, because it's a tunnel.
There probably are a lot of disused railway tunnels, but there's not that many to sprint a bike down.
The tunnel sprints come about one day. We decided we'd do a ride out, just a chilled out ride to Bath, have a few beers up there, ride back. You got the rail tunnel on the path. We'd had to do something with it because it was all lit up with the orange lights. I was really sketched, didn't think no one was going to turn up. You know, there's no prizes, nothing. 50, 60 people showed up and we just pounded it. It's good times.
At uni one day, Ferris starts going on about fixed gear bikes. And I was like, why would you want to get a bike with one gear? It just didn't make any sense. You used to go on about it all the time.
I did, yeah.
And then eventually I came around to it and I was like, okay, I might, just buy a cheap one and see what it's like. So I got a Lancaster off eBay. It was a bit tricky for the first week, but after that it was the best thing I've ever done. I can't believe I hadn't done it sooner.
Literally, you just bolt things together and the next minute you're riding down the street for the first time thinking this is different and it's nice.
You know, it's not a competition, it's not a race, but it's just a different style of riding, and it's a different style of riding that attracted me.
I think the adrenaline rush of riding down the hills is actually amazing. You know, you're spinning out, and you do have more control over the bike certainly, and also riding up the hills. It just is very simple, but it's a workout. For me, it's training.
Some kind of masochistic thing to it, I guess. You know, it hurts, you know, especially if you're riding some big hills and you're going fast. It's kind of, you know it's going to burn your legs, your lungs and stuff. But it's kind of once you kind of got to the top, you know, especially if you were with a group of riders and you've got to the top and you're like first and you've dropped everyone else, you're just like, doesn't matter how much it hurts, you know, it's a kind of a great feeling.
Riding fixed is simple, to me anyway. I mean, sure, there's loads to learn, don't get me wrong, but there's nothing to maintain really, I guess. Well, not regular maintenance for me anyway. I'm sure you should. I'm sure a lot of riders will be like, oh, you're supposed to do this and that every day, but can't be bothered.
Once you get into it and get into that rhythm, you sort of become more aware of things and aware of how you're riding and the world around you and how it all responds. And it's just an extension of that, really.
You think very differently. You think much further ahead. You think like 50 metres ahead, you're looking where the cars are coming, where people are, they might cross the road. And I think, it brings more awareness to the way you see things and the way you ride,
It was just a harmony that I'd never expected. I just thought that would be fun, or it might be difficult, or it's just a different way of cycling. But just the connection between man and bicycle was so brilliant, and it hooked me.
Yeah, I think you feel more at home or more in touch. That's the words we're looking for. You're more in touch with your bike if you're directly connected to it.
You can just mess about on bikes. I'm not actually doing any tricks, I'm not doing anything useful or productive. I'm just having fun messing about on a bike, and I probably haven't done that since I was a kid.
Tank. White man spend money like a black man. Make a little bit of sense cause I'm an Italian. In other words, before I get my first check, I'm thinking about a Cadillac and something fat I'm out of
This particular type of bike, it's very hands-on, it's very, you know, and it's like that people put their kind of personality into the bike. When I started riding, I loved it, you know, and I couldn't wait to paint my bike and buy new little bits and, you know.
It's got to be something to do with the clean aesthetic of it all, really. The sort of swiftness of riding a bike and the way it makes you feel, how you're connected to it all. Design and bikes, they just fit together neatly.
It's like being into hip hop and graffiti. It's just one of those things that go together perfectly. And fixed gear bikes are just set up for beautiful frames and, you know, getting the best drops. And why would you just get a bike and ignore it? You might as well get one and make it beautiful. Everything links up. I just see it as just, you know, another graphic piece.
Going to London once and I saw one outside a shop and I was like, whoa, I love this. Like, I think it had an aerospoke on the front and it was covered in stickers, and I was like, yeah, I love that.
Latest inspiration is to build one out of wood with a wooden frame and see how that goes. I think there are some amazing possibilities using wood to make a bicycle frame, and hopefully that will bring some of the essence of the simplicity of wood together with that kind of bare essentials of fixed gear riding.
I feel like the fixed gear bike scene is going to evolve, and it's growing and people are getting really interested in it because, you know, the bikes are just so pretty. You know, when you spot one in the street, it's like, oh, look at that, look at that, isn't that lovely? And it brightens your day.
I knew exactly what I wanted, you know, how it wanted to look. It took ages to get all the parts because I wanted it to look how I wanted it to look, and yeah, so I think it's quite an important part for me. You know, if you don't like it, I don't mind. I love it. I love my bike, so. Yeah.
I love my bike. The track's all about discipline, doing set drills. There's a certain way to do everything. You don't really make up your own way. You just have to do it a certain way.
Just you know, you're the only variable on it.
It's a big circle made of wood. And the coaches are all Welsh.
There was an article in Bone Shaker recently where somebody said that we don't need more cyclists, we need more bike riders. And I just think that the fixed gear scene will permeate out. People will realise that it's just a fun thing. It's not, you don't have to be in the gang to be in it. You know, it's just riding bikes. That's all it is. It's getting people on bikes and riding them.
Yeah, there's a mythology about cycling, I think, and sometimes it's really, really pretentious, and sometimes it's totally intoxicating. You just, you know, if you cycle a lot, something odd happens whereby you can be out on a bike for 4 hours, and you know, and the actual idea that you might be doing something fairly repetitive for 4 hours seems odd and seems, you know, how can that work? How can you not get bored? But actually, that 4 hours becomes insignificant. Something occurs during that process. Maybe it's the flow activity of it. I don't know. Maybe it's the way your mind wanders. But actually, time becomes somehow negated, and just in this really absorbing, like, immersive thing. Cycling's immersive. It's a process whereby you just are completely at one with something, and that means that those other things, those other factors, you know, time, life and work itself, just become, you know, sort of muted.
The whole point of me having a bike is that I can just ride to have, you know, put a beer in my bag, put the camera in there, just roll down to Bristol, anywhere along the harbour side, and just enjoy being on a bike. Just rolling around, basically, being a bit of a voyeur, just checking stuff out, being in my own little world, put my MP3 player on. I think that's the essence of why I ride a bike. I just get away from everything for a few minutes, chill myself out, and then I can come back again.
It possibly provides something that all of the other things that we experience, that we have, that are supposed to give us a sense of community, you know, things like Facebook that are supposed to join you together, that are supposed to, you know, make these, so, you know, the social network that are supposed to create that. They don't. They create it in the abstract. You know, they create it in a negative, you know, and they create a representation of a social network. Whereas if you take away that, the conduit there, which is the computer, or you take away, you know, the internet, whatever, and you replace it with something concrete, which is the bicycle, then suddenly the links become concrete. So the actual community, you know, the bicycle is a tangible thing, and the you know, the community that we have is a tangible thing, and that's the difference, isn't it?
Simple.
Freedom.
Creative.
Connected.
Funny-tastic.
Friendship.
Dynamic.
Liberating.
Great.
I think riding fixed in Bristol, one word would probably have to be a challenge.